So, with title update 4 being the last major update, and Gogmazios being the last new monster to come to Wilds,
It's just so sad.
it has got me thinking back across Wilds' journey. And one thing kind of stood out that I wanted to talk about again, and that thing is...
Great Bird Somult! Let's fly!
Yeah, the almost kind of mythological guardian entity that the people of Kunafa village believe in. Way back in beta for Wilds, I did a little talk on Somult, because we got some choice morsels of information on this creature, I'm going to call it, from the villagers. We knew it obviously wasn't Raid Dow, and at the time we didn't know what would belong in the upper cliff nest. It could easily be a predatory bird. Turned out to be Seregios and Gypsaros, of course, but that doesn't change that there was this definitive kind of thread of something. Now, obviously, that something has never materialized past that now that we've reached this side of Wilds. But that doesn't mean that the book is closed on Great Bird Somult. The people of Kunafa think that it is this sort of protector, which is why you as the hunter, when you start becoming that protector in the Forbidden Lands, get referred to it as well, and that kind of keeps happening. Even if it's not directly Somult itself, the imagery is clear. Tetsuzan with Good Hunter borne aloft on mighty wings, the chief of Zuz with I look at you and I see wings of a great bird, Great Bird Somult, and obviously in title update 2 for the Seregios introduction cinematic, we got the kids referencing Somult, how they were going to soar like it on the Sacred before they almost got murder killed by the Seregios. So it's not like it was completely forgotten about, the thread was picked at a little bit. And guys, the answer has been obvious this entire time. I know exactly what Great Bird Somult is.
Hello.
Okay, but like I totally couldn't resist. So why do I bring this up then? Well, obviously there is one hand where this is just going to stop here, we're going to get master rank eventually, it'll never come up again, it's just some background world building, and that's entirely fair. It's also perhaps likely. However, we have had examples of supposedly just background world building actually materializing to be ridiculous monsters. We'll go over that in a second, but first and foremost, when it comes to what we imagine this potential Great Bird Somult to be, there is a couple interesting thoughts. One of which that people have discussed, and it's very compelling, is that there's a bit of Somult in Zosia, that perhaps Great Bird Somult was an ancient species like arkveld that is now extinct, but still venerated and remembered across generations, and maybe it was fairly peaceful. Maybe it was an elder dragon like those in World that don't attack you unless you attack it, and it was very cohabitable. They say that Somult bridged the gap between the people and the land. So it could very much be a elder dragon tier bird wyvern that had a kind of symbiosis with the humans of the Windward Plain or of the Forbidden Lands in general. If the people of Suju and Azuz also make references to Somult, then it must have been quite the widespread big deal that's lasted this long, despite seemingly the original inspiration creature, if that's what it was, not being present yet. In any case, the idea of a high-tier, big, birdy, eagerly elder dragon level monster is both really cool because, let's be honest, outside of Yangaruga and, deviants like Nightcloak Malfestio, and indeed Yangaruga's one, there's not really like a default base ridiculously threatening bird wyvern. They're always kinda relegated to the lower middle tiers. I would love a classic bird monster monster, like Malfestio is for the owls, but, you know, maybe eagerly and actually proper, at least minimal apex level power. That would be such a nice addition to Wilds and Monster Hunter in general, and a Master Rank expansion doing that, giving Somult its due, maybe as a Guardian, as in giving it the arkveld spin, and maybe that leads to its resurrection, is the way to do it. And it's not like a giant bird monster is completely unheard of, at least conceptually, when it comes to Monster Hunter. Way back in one of the original concept books, we literally have a Rathalos grappling with and taking down a giant, very much just kind of straight up eagerly birdy looking monster. And that's really, really cool. Now, obviously, you know, very old concept art isn't the basis for kind of anything, but also we know both from Capcom's actions and words, they do keep old concepts in mind and repurpose them, re-engineer them when it makes sense for future Monster Hunter games. We need look no further than Zosia and the Equal Dragon weapon clearly being connected to each other, at least in terms of their root idea. Obviously, Zosia very much flourished differently to fit Wilds and the Forbidden Lands, but I don't think anyone can rightly say there isn't a little bit of Equal Dragon weapon DNA gone into the creation of Zosia as an Elder Dragon and his place in the story. So the idea of a big old eagle thing is certainly on the cards. But talking of Zosia then, well, that's where I was leading. There's been a lot of talk in the past that Zosia might well be Somult, or at least be based on it, or one of the DNAs going into it is Somult, and I found that kind of fascinating because we know there's a lot of other monsters in Zosia, Fatalis being the chief example. We've seen the moves, the animations, it's a big old mishmash of black dragons and powerful monsters and dangerousness to make it the weapon that it is, and as dangerous as it is, at least lore-wise. But there's nothing to say that there are monsters that make it up that we don't recognize because they're, air quotes, new monsters we don't know about and haven't seen yet. So the idea that one of the monsters that makes up Zosia, or perhaps maybe even the base monster that's been infused with others, is this Somult, an ancient, legendarily powerful, bird-like protector entity, is kinda neat. The only real, of course, evidence for that is Zosia's aesthetic. Obviously, it's got this guardian angel vibe to it, and Somult is a guardian in terms of protector, not so much guardian, and it's got the feathers. Its head looks bird-like in shape. Its armor's covered in feathers. Now, yes, that is an angel motif, but angel wings are feathered, so by their own nature, they're also bird motifs. So if the forms of Zosia that we don't recognize, everything essentially bird-like about it, you could say is based on Somult, then ooh, maybe we'll meet it in the Master Rank expansion. And that's kind of where this loops round to. The fact that we never really had Somult come up again outside of some references across title updates and as the story of Wilds progressed is perhaps a little bit disappointing. Because when a load of people start mentioning this seemingly incredibly powerful Elder Dragon-esque sounding creature that is this big guardian of the Forbidden Lands, you kind of want to end up wearing its skin. And that just doesn't seem to have happened. But is it out of the question? Is it going to be a possibility in Master Rank? Well, firstly, it would just be cool if it was, right? A high-tier Elder Dragon Bird Wyvern in Master Rank, and it's Somult. Surprise, here we go, we've laid the groundwork, enjoy. But that's just kind of wishful thinking, right? But if we look at previous examples where kind of background world building has actually resulted in a monster, perhaps monsters, it starts to seem a lot more plausible. Remember the Tale of the Five from Monster Hunter World. I have done a few talks on this, including one leading into Wilds, because again, Somult kinda made me think of that. And we know for a fact that back then in Base World, when you could read this story in your room, none of the dragons and what they became kind of immediately connected to anything we knew about. You could have argued Zora Magdaros was one, but nothing directly. But then we got Iceborne, and Iceborne suddenly had a bit of a, oh, we have one dragon lifted its gaze to the sky and became the mountains. A lot of people, and I don't completely discount it either, think that that is Shara Ishfelder. It does make sense, but that one is arguable. The one that certainly isn't is the last dragon climbed far into the sky to become a star of sapphire blue. I mean, the literal flying dragonly looking dragon that is Safi Jiva, that has an attack literally called Sapphire of the Emperor, and it looks like a blue star, I think is very clearly, if not literally this, very, very much based on it. So if back then I'd have been like, hey, these 5 dragons actually haven't come up in World in all of the title updates, that's a bit of a shame. Is it just kind of background dressing, just lore, just interesting things to read? Or maybe in the Master Rank expansion in Iceborne we'll actually get some of them represented? You could have had the same reaction that you might be having to this very video. So I ask you, what if this Great Bird Somult we've been hearing about this entire time in little background lore window dressing actually comes up proper in a Master Rank Wilds expansion as an Elder Dragon, or at least high tier level bird wyvern frame, properly bird getting for the series. And we find out that it is an ancient monster, maybe some more Guardian stuff comes into it, maybe Zosia is learnt about more. However they choose to implement it or explain it, that would certainly be pretty cool, and there is precedent. And, you know, I think the fact that the Wilds logo, or at least the logo of the expedition into the Forbidden Lands, literally has a big old bird on it. I mean, that just seems like a little bit on the nose. Obviously, they couldn't have known, but look, that's certainly a very deliberate choice, because that certainly isn't any monster that we're aware of, at least currently, so getting that visualized would be nice. We also know that post-gogmazios, Fabius has been like, hey, so Elder Dragons are happening now, this is a thing, they're in the Forbidden Lands, guess we gotta deal with that, and we know we're not getting any more, obviously, in Base Wilds, but that's clearly setting up well, future of Master Rank, where we're undoubtedly going to actually get a surge of Elder Dragons, because you gotta have a surge of Elder Dragons in a Master Rank Monster Hunter title. So what if one of them is new, and called Great Bird Somult? In any case, food for thought on something that I thought was very interesting and certainly worth talking about again. Let me know what you think. Like you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.